This will be the craziest FNCS in Fortnite history by
It's no
Ace.
secret, this season's meta isn't the most skillful. However, it's looking like we're about to have one of the most iconic FNCSs in the entire history of Fortnite. Some of the best players we've ever seen touch the game have decided to make the move from their region to now compete on NA with the hopes to either win or place top 10 in order to qualify for the $2 million global championship next season. But with that being said, there's not enough spots for all of them to make it, so some duos will leave disappointed. One team who might just have that happen to them is Mongrel and Mr. Savage. We saw Mongrel return to the game
Outplay would have
in
been
the
better
OG
if they stayed on EU.
With the perfect script, him and Savage ended up making the FNCS Grand Finals in Season 1 of Chapter 5.
So hype, bro.
As most of you know though, Finals wouldn't end so well since they were contested, resulting in a 39th. And Season 2 unfortunately would be much worse, with them not even making the Grands since Mongrel wasn't grinding the game as much. But at the end of the run, Savage would announce that they had something big planned for Season 3. And now we all know that it was that they were coming to NA.
I just
mentioned how last season Mongrel wasn't playing the game as much. However, this time around, it looks like the move really helped
very
motivate
locked in
him.
right now.
The most important question is, how are things going so far? And well, they're looking better than ever, and there's one massive reason for this. So far this chapter, they've been landing at this split, which has one big problem. Typically, it's contested, and since it's quite a 50-50 spot, if they die too much, there's really nothing they can do after that. With that being said though, when you're uncontested, it's extremely good. For example, Chap and TD last season placed second going there. It seems like this time though, Mongrel and Savage are done with that drop and have decided to go this split here. Comparing this drop to last season again, we saw Raison and Badil go there. And despite it not looking super good, it actually is, since they were able to get in fourth place.
It's changed a lot since then, let's be fair.
There have only been 2 dual catch
season, that area was very different.
Of FNCS to determine how all these teams have been doing so far. However, that's all we really need. Unfortunately for Mongrel and Savage, they barely missed making the first catch code finals, but they did end up making the second one and performed quite well in it, getting a 15th.
They did.
This is much more impressive than it sounds, since they ended up being contested and didn't even load into one of the games. As far as FNCS goes, they didn't make the finals, however they got really close with a 73rd. This means they are already guaranteed qualified into the lower bracket semifinals, so if they—
I wouldn't say better than ever though. I think they looked better in the start of— they looked better as a team. Overall, I think they're playing better, communicating better, Mongrel's more locked in. I think they have a better chance, but I'm not basing that on placements. Chapter 5 Season 1, they're actually placing better and making more finals, if I remember correctly. They've made 1 finals this season out of like 8 or 9 chances. It's been a little bit rough.
Just do a little bit better in week 2, they'll make the upper bracket. I think everyone has been really impressed with how well they've been doing this season. But the whole reason for them moving in the first place is for them to secure a qualification spot into globals. So will they actually be able to do that? Well, it's going to be really hard. I do think they will definitely make grands. However, for them to have a chance, they need to get uncontested. But lucky for them, there's no other top tier pros that are landing this split. So with that being said, in the end, it'll really just depend on how well they play on the day. Now, Mongrel and Mr. Savage are a big
making grands, I think, should be almost 100% locked in. If they don't make grands, that's a huge underperformance. Making LAN, you gotta remember the roll down spots, there's 5 teams already qualified playing on NA. So qual to LAN's gonna be like top 13, top 14-ish on NA is my guess. So still pretty tough though with how good grand finals on NA is looking.
Mark whether they'll make it or not. And interestingly enough, they're actually one of only 2 duos that are composed entirely of EU players.
Yeah, true.
But with that being said, these next teams have a really good chance at winning it all. The first we need to talk about is Clix and Vino. For years now, Clix has been a top tier competitor and fans have been waiting for him to finally take home an FNCS title. But so far, the closest he's ever really gotten was Season 1 of this chapter with Epic Whale when they placed 4th.
Should have won that one too.
After a disappointing Season 2, they would decide to split. Luckily for Clix though, it was at this time where Vino had just split with Tayson after also having some lackluster placements. Eventually, Vino would make that decision to come over to NA and try to get Clix his first ever FNCS win.
Get Clix
so
his
far,
first
it's
ever
looking
FNCS.
very likely. Throughout Vino's career, he's been able to win 2 FNCSs and has made over $900,000 from the game.
Both is
on top of this, he's
though.
still one of the best players in it, which means this is definitely the best teammate Clix will probably ever have. Draw spot wise,
it's gonna be, I mean, at the same time though, so Veno's never won an FNCS while IGLing. So this whole idea that Veno's like coming over and giving Clix a win and carrying him, I think we need to chill out with that one a little bit. It's not just Ace. A lot of people are doing this. Like, it's gonna be super impressive if Veno wins this FNCS because he's never fully IGL before. And he's like doing surge strats, mid game, early game, end game decision making. Like, he's doing it all.
decided to finally leave Lavish Lair and instead drop at Sandy Steps.
Such a good drop.
This is definitely a big POI upgrade since there is a bunch of more loot there and it's much easier to get. On top of that, just like Mongo and Savage, as of now, no other good teams are going there, and I really doubt anyone wants to fight them. On paper, this duo looks unstoppable.
Got to mention the forecast tower. They have an 80% forecast tower. So you think if a grand final is 12 games, they're getting it like 9 times roughly. That is huge.
But how have they actually been doing this season? At first, they had a lackluster start in the duo Cash Cups, getting a 22nd.
Oh, sorry. I have their coach BloodX in the chat who would like me to inform you, chat. It's an 8% spawn rate. Yeah. 8%. 100%. Definitely not 80%. Definitely not super broken. Yeah, 8%. Yeah.
Which didn't look too promising. However, it was in FNCS where things would really pick up. By the way, if you're enjoying the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Throughout the first week's qualifiers, they played phenomenally and actually ended up getting first in the finals, winning 3 out of the 6
really
games.
Good.
It's also worth noting that this is the first time this chapter we've seen set lobbies during the FNCS qualifier weeks, which is very, very important to truly see who the potential winners going into Grands will be. It's also important to note that Vino is probably the best person for Clix to play with, and not just because of his achievements. Vino isn't afraid to speak his mind and tells Clix exactly what he wants him to do at all times. This works really well for Clix, so he can purely focus on one thing at a time.
Doesn't work well for Clix. Yeah, Vena's not afraid to call him a little bitch, basically, but yeah.
Time and also lock in on what his strong suits are. That being said though, there is one massive problem that can cost them this win. Their entire game plan during endgame is to continuously chop out height and grief their mats, then go up later on in the moving zones
conditioning
and take it. This works extremely well now since the Nitro Fists have been vaulted and the only movement are the Nitro Splashes.
Very true.
That being said, the Nitro Fists were only taken out because of a bug, so it's very likely that by the time Grands comes around, it'll be back in the game.
This was filmed before they announced it, so yes, Fist not coming back, but a very good point he made. That was a really big concern. If Fist came back, I feel like that was going to really, really hurt Clix and Venom more than almost any other team,
which makes it really, really hard to almost impossible to keep height for a long period of time. This is also why we could see some big upsets going to the finals, so we're really just going to have to wait and see what happens. But with Vino IGLing them, I still think they'll find a way to do well, and that's not even factoring in that they are probably the best fighting duo we have ever seen play together. So because of that, it's almost 100% guaranteed they're going to make the global championship.
Oh yeah, if they don't make land, it's going to be
a win. Now would be the time. I mentioned him earlier, so of course we need to talk about the 5x FNCS champ Tayson, who has come over to play with Yamzo. Now, if you don't follow comp heavily, this may sound like a very weird decision. However, if you do, you'll know that Yamzo is one of the best players in the game and has a very similar playstyle to Vino. On top of this, Tayson is actually extremely good friends with him even before moving. With that being said though, Tayson really needs no introduction. For years now, he's been on top, but recently things haven't gone too well, with his last top 10 placement in a Grands being back in Chapter 4 Season 2, well over a year ago. However, with this move, it looks like he's determined to get his 6th FNCS title, and together they've started off extremely strong.
Yeah, they're looking good.
It looks like they've decided to claim the Kami split on NA, and the fact that it's even called that should already tell you it's a very solid drop. Right away, they're showing why they play so well together. This is a team who opt for a more consistent playstyle, never going for anything too risky. With that being said though, once they solidify their position in a game, they aren't afraid to frag out. And it seems to be working out extremely well so far, considering they won the 2nd Cash Cup this season and placed 4th in the FNCS finals. Very similar to Mongrel, it seems like this move has really helped motivate Tayson to grind the game again. I already mentioned how his placements for a 5x FNCS champ haven't been up to viewer standards, and well, it really just comes down to the fact that he wasn't enjoying the game. We've already seen
Tayson
time and time again,
Mongrel,
when
baby.
Tayson actually enjoys playing a season, he does well, but when he doesn't, you know what happens. On the other side of this, Yamzo has had an insane run over the last few seasons, being extremely close to winning multiple times with Rise, but just missing out each time. And
again, worth mentioning, if you guys missed that one, Rise and Yamzo were going to win FNCS. They like had it like 90% locked down, and then they both were playing from the same house, and the internet started dropping out, and they had to lose like 3 games. It was disastrous. It was so sad to watch. Like, that was their win. They were so far in the lead and looking so good.
Unexpected.
Not this one, by the way.
matchup was, I could definitely see them winning this season, so I guess only time will tell.
I think they're a win. They're one of my top threes.
Similar to Taste and Yamzo is Pink and Miro. Again, both these
Pink
players
and Miro
need
being
no introduction.
so quiet
Miro
so
is
far,
the best
though.
controller player to have ever
I'm
touched
scared
this
for this
game,
duo, I'm going to be
currently
honest.
tied for the most FNCS wins in the world at 6, with his most recent being the 2023 Global Championship with Cooper. Pink, on the other hand, has already proved countless times that he is one of the best players in the world. However, he hasn't been able to get that FNCS win quite yet. Their draw spot, though, is very interesting. Instead of claiming a well-known POI that they can easily hold down, they opted to drop at this split here. At first glance, you might think that this doesn't look very good, and well, I don't blame you, but that's exactly what they want you to think. Last season,
Mero does lock in for grands, but
this split, and they were able to get an impressive 3rd place from it. This season, though, they decided to leave and go somewhere else. So Pink and Miro, being smart, decided to claim this for 2 important reasons. The first one is that there is almost a 0% chance a team contests them.
Yeah,
and even
they
if
should
they
be
are somehow
unconned.
contested in grands, they will 100% qualify to land no matter what. You still may be wondering why here instead of another spot where they can probably do the exact same thing. And again, it's because of land. They know that no other
Very
big
smart
teams are
point by
going
Ace.
here, especially in other regions. So going into the Global Championship, they will once again have a really high chance of not getting landed on.
It's a good point. It's a great land drop. That's a very good point. It's not really an FNCS winning drop, but it's definitely a top 10 drop, and then it's also a going into land with a good spot. That's a great point.
It's really important, but what's the second reason for this choice? And well, it's because Cooper and Miro are still friends. Now, I'm purely guessing, but since Cooper went here last season, there's a really good chance that he would be happy to give Pink and Miro all of their strategies that they've
Kanata and Pink
so
are good
far,
friends too. It'd
which
probably
will
be more
save them a bunch
Kanata
of time
teaching
coming
him.
up with these strats, and they'll also be able to refine it even more. At the time of recording, they only played 1 Cash Cup together, winning opens but coming 22nd in the finals. From that alone, you may think things aren't going too well. However, when you take a look at FNCS, they were able to get a 7th in the finals. And over time, when they get more used to this drop and come up with better strats, they'll inevitably just keep improving. Those were the most notable players who moved, but they aren't even close to the only ones. In fact, there's a team who already qualified for globals from OCE who also decided to make the move, and that's Alex and Worthy. Now, their situation is very different to everyone else, since, like I mentioned, they already made globals.
They got that land
where
ticket.
all the other players who came over to NA still need to qualify. And the main reason for them doing this is simply so they can get better practice going into the event. Obviously, an OCE Grands plays out way different compared to NA or EU.
Obviously.
So this makes a lot of sense. Now, so far, their placements haven't been anything too crazy, and to be honest, I don't think this season will end so well for them. Now, this time around, they decided to drop at Restored Reels.
I was super hopeful. They're a great team. Like, they did so well at LAN. The last LAN in the qualifiers, they were uncon and they came like 6th. Then they were con in finals and did bad. But like, I don't know what's going on with them this season. I was expecting more, I'm gonna be honest.
Cease landing there, and in the week 1 finals we saw how this off spawn fight would go, and let's just say things were not looking too good for them, with them dying off spawn 5 out of the 6 games. Now, when they did live, they actually ended up getting a top 6.
Well,
so
they won 2 of the games.
Well,
they won
really
2 of
just
6, but yeah.
what they decide to do off spawn, whether that's coming up with a new strategy or just going somewhere else altogether. Next, we gotta talk about the second full EU duo who has been going crazy so far, Blaha and Mixon. Now, we actually saw Mixon come over last season and play with Paco, and in the end, their performance was pretty decent. However, this new duo is much better.
Yeah, this is a much better duo.
They actually got a 5th place in EU last time they played in FNCS together, so they could have won that season to do really well. And the fact that they just got 2nd in the week 1 finals for sure proves it. The last player I'll mention who came from EU that I think has the potential to do really well is Kylie.
Yeah, Kylie and Vert.
Both these
Super
players
underrated.
are extremely slept on, and many forget that Vert is actually an FNCS champion, winning back in Chapter 2 Season 3 solos over on NA West. Now, a lot of these teams took a little bit to start showing how good they are, but Kylie and Vert started off extremely strong right out the gate, getting back-to-back 5ths in the Duo Cash Cup. In FNCS, they actually ended up barely missing out on the finals, getting 51st. So we weren't able to see how well they would perform in the best set lobby so far this season. However, this is still a team you need to look out for going forward. The last EU players I haven't mentioned yet who came over is Yapko, who you may remember won the last Gamers 8 event with Kami. And for this season, he's ended up
totally
playing with
forgot about
Quanti.
that.
And last but not least, I mentioned him earlier, but you have Paco, who is now playing with Fortec, an extremely underrated player. With all these massive names coming over, it will be interesting to see who comes out on top and makes it in the end. But if you enjoyed and want to stay up to date, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and check out these videos here. Have an amazing rest of your days. Peace out.
W video.